The Great Chamber of the
I just
Galactic Council
have.
was the largest room ever built by any species in the known
Oh
galaxy.
no!
It floated at the center of a massive space station, surrounded by stars and
Um,
empty space. The
I
walls
don't know
were
what you
made
guys
of
want to
clear
do,
crystal,
but
so everyone inside could see the universe stretching out forever in all directions.
I don't know if I
It
want
was
to.
designed this way
Yeah,
on
hope so.
purpose. The council wanted everyone to feel small when they stood inside.
Here, I got the jetpack.
Today,
Here,
the
you guys
chamber
stay in
was
the ring.
full.
I'm gonna bring it back.
Representatives from 12 different alien species sat in their designated sections, arranged in a circle around a single platform in the
No,
center.
you don't need to drive it.
Some were
He's the
tall and
reviver.
thin with skin like tree bark.
Okay.
Others were short and covered in hard shells. A few floated in tanks of strange liquid
oh,
because they
it
could
might
not
be
breathe
someone.
air.
It might be locked.
Each species was
Like you
different,
said.
but they all had one thing in common. They
Um,
all
Asshole
believed
now.
they were better than the small, soft creatures standing alone on the center
I
platform.
don't have anything besides half potion,
Ambassador
so,
stood perfectly still as thousands of alien eyes watched her. She was a human woman of 42 years, with black hair tied
No,
back
won't-
in a
I
simple
got
gray
the card. I
uniform.
don't know why it's not
By
letting me
galactic
here.
standards, she was nothing special. Humans were
We
young.
gotta go.
Humans were
It's
weak.
gonna start closing.
Humans had only joined the Council 300 years ago, and in that short time, they
Yeah,
had
I only
caused more
have
trouble than any species in
a
memory.
half potion. I don't even have a med
High
kit.
Arbiter raised his crystalline
I have a
staff and
med kit
struck it
here.
against
Can
the
I
floor
please
3
get it?
times. The sound echoed
but
through the
the-
chamber like
Good.
thunder. Was an insect-like creature with 4 arms and eyes that glittered like black diamonds.
He's
He had
gonna keep
served as
pushing.
the leader
Come
of the
this way.
council for 200 years, and in all that time, he had never lost a vote. The council has reached its decision,
He has
announced.
a
His voice was cold and
the
sharp,
heavy gun too.
translated instantly into every language by the devices implanted in each representative's ear.
He's
The
down.
matter
He's
before
down.
us today
He's down.
is
I'm
the
going up the
continued
hill
membership of
'cause
the
I don't really
species
have
known as
much.
humanity.
Nope, she was
Did not
self-revived.
move.
Got her ass.
She did not blink.
Who the
She had
fuck?
known this moment
Shit,
was
shit, we
coming
gotta
for a
go.
very long
Got
time.
a fucking big ass.
The charges against
Yeah.
humanity are as follows, continued.
Fucker, let's go,
First,
motherfucker.
the
There's one ahead of us,
unauthorized
too.
development of weapons technology beyond
Careful.
their permitted level. Second, the exploration of forbidden space without council approval. Third, the refusal to share scientific discoveries with the council as required by law. Fourth, the general disruption of galactic peace and order through their aggressive expansion and dangerous curiosity.
Oh shit, Dakota's
A
still
murmur
alive.
ran through the chamber. The alien representatives nodded and clicked
How
and
many
made sounds of
cards does
agreement.
it say you have?
Yes, they all knew about the humans. The humans asked too many questions. The humans
Oh, I-
built
I need
things they should
fucking-
not build. The humans went places they should not
Okay,
go.
so then
The
we
humans
might be
did
able
not
to
know their
reboot-
place.
Let's go to
The
the van.
vote has been counted,
Keep going
said.
towards circle.
11 species have voted in
I'm
favor
closer,
of
so I'm gonna
exile.
just. I might
One
be able to do it.
species has voted against.
Yeah, but you don't want
He
to-
paused and looked directly at. As
Well, if you
always, have
follow me.
shown misplaced sympathy for the
I'm trying,
young
baby,
and
I will give you
foolish.
fucking cards.
In their section, the amphibian
Why are you
representatives
so
shifted
angry?
uncomfortably. They were the only species that had
Why-
ever shown
why are you so
humans
mad?
any kindness, and
Why are you
now
so
they
mad?
would pay
Oh,
a
someone-
political price for it. Ambassador
he's
of
low.
Earth said, his voice growing
You got him.
louder.
He's low.
By the authority of the Galactic Council, your species is hereby sentenced to exile. You will surrender all territory within Council space. You will dismantle all military vessels. You will relocate your entire population to
The
the
whole
outer
fucking-
rim,
it's like
to the
two-
dead systems beyond civilized
run.
space. You have 30 standard rotations to comply. Failure to do so will result in the use of force. Lowered his staff. The chamber fell silent.
Tell her why
Every
you mad,
eye
Twin.
watched the small human woman, waiting for her to cry, to beg, to fall to her knees and plead for mercy. That was what condemned species always did. That was how this story always ended. Smiled.
Fuck, bro.
It was not a smile of fear. It was not a smile of false courage. It was the smile of someone who knew something that everyone else did not.
Still stuck.
High Arbiter, she said, her voice calm
going
and
again.
clear. I thank the council for its decision. However, I must
give a fuck.
inform you that your sentence will not be
Little
necessary.
zombie guys, 'cause my thing is
Leaned
stuck.
forward. Explain
What
yourself,
time is it?
human.
What? It's 1:05,
Humanity
bro?
departed 6 months ago, said simply.
Hey, we're
Every
young.
colony, every station, every ship, every man, woman, and child.
Don't show our
We
age
left
now.
the moment we understood that this vote was coming. There is nothing left in our territory to
Are we
exile.
still in the game?
The chamber
I'm
erupted in
No, I'm in
chaos.
lobby.
Alien voices shouted and screamed. Representatives
Guys,
jumped to their
dude, my
feet,
shit's frozen.
struck his staff against the floor again and again,
Dude,
trying to restore order.
fucking
Impossible,
hold.
he shouted. Our surveillance systems have monitored your systems every day. We have seen your cities.
Yeah,
We
my
have
door
tracked
has
your
been open
ships.
this whole time, and it's
You
been
saw
like
what we
that
wanted
way
you to
fucking
see,
colder.
replied.
Like the
She
hallway is
reached into her
icy,
uniform and pulled out a small metal device.
and shit.
She
Oh my
pressed a
gosh,
button,
the
and a
fucking.
Bro, my
holographic
shit.
image appeared above
How
the
do you
center
exit out of
platform.
this screen?
It
Like,
was a
how do
map of the
you?
galaxy,
If
but
it's
something was
frozen.
wrong.
On.
Where humanity's
He just
12-star
probably
system
to
should have
close the
been,
whole
there was
game.
nothing,
Yeah.
empty
You just start
space.
punching the
No
monitor.
planets, no
No.
moons, no
Shut up.
stations,
No, like
no
I can't
stars.
close the game. It
We
won't
did
let
not
me do
simply
it.
leave our
So
worlds, explained.
How do I
We
close the
took them
game?
with us. All 12
I,
systems,
Right.
all 47 billion people, all our history, our culture, our future. We wrapped our stars in fields of
The fuck,
folded
bro?
space and
What
carried
the
them into the void between galaxies. The chamber had gone completely silent. No one was shouting now.
Hold on.
They were too shocked to make any sound at all. You cannot do this, whispered. This technology does not exist. This is not possible. It was not possible for your scientists, agreed. But we are not like you. We did not wait for permission.
Who is that?
We did not ask what was allowed.
Solid.
We saw a problem and we solved it. That is what
He
humans do.
says all F4.
She turned slowly, looking at each
All
section of
F4?
alien representatives in turn. The with their clicking
Nope.
mandibles,
Not
the with their
me.
bodies of living stone, the
Maybe
with
it's
their
like you're cut
sad,
off.
wet eyes.
No more Fortnite.
All of them had looked down on humanity
7
for
hours.
300 years. All of them had
Now to
treated
open up
humans like
Pathfinder.
children who needed to be controlled.
No.
You voted to exile us, said,
Control-Alt-Delete.
but we were already gone. You wanted to take our
Delete,
worlds
okay.
from us,
Is
but
that a
we took our
password?
worlds with us.
Mhm.
You thought we were weak because we are small and
I'm
soft
not
and
doing
young,
anything.
but you forgot something important about humans. And what is that? Asked, his voice barely a whisper. Smile faded, her eyes grew hard. We survived ice ages, we
I don't
survived
understand.
plagues, we survived wars that killed millions. We survived ourselves, which is the hardest thing of all. And through all of it, we learned one lesson that your species have
I don't
never
play on
understood.
PC, so
When
I don't know
someone
how to
tries
close
to
it out.
destroy you, you do not wait for them to finish. You do not
Okay, I'm
beg
on
for
Task
mercy.
Manager. Okay, what
You
do I do?
change the rules of the
Okay.
game. She pressed another
Wait,
button on her device.
why
Her
won't you
body
let me
began
in
to
the
shimmer
task?
with light as a teleportation field surrounded her. Goodbye, High Arbiter.
Bro, I don't.
Thank
This
you
has
for
never
teaching
happened
us
to
what the
me.
galaxy truly thinks
I've
of
never
us.
had this.
We will not forget this lesson, and if we ever meet again, I hope you will remember what you
Mate,
learned
what
today.
are you doing?
The light grew
Hold on, let me
brighter and
restart it.
brighter. Its form began to fade. The galaxy is very large, she said, her voice echoing strangely as she disappeared. And we are very patient. Perhaps in 1,000 years or 10,000 we will return, and when we do, we will show you what humanity has become. Then she was gone. The chamber remained silent for a very long time. Finally, one of the representatives spoke. His voice was quiet, almost sad. What have we done? He asked. No one answered him, but deep in his heart, High Arbiter felt something he had not felt in 200 years. Fear. Admiral stood on the bridge of the flagship Wanderer's Promise and watched the Milky Way grow
She's
smaller
starting to
behind them.
Her whole PC
The great
open?
spiral of stars that had been humanity's home for their entire existence was now just a bright smear of light in the endless darkness. Soon, even that would fade away. Around him, officers worked quietly at their stations. The bridge was large and clean,
Me too,
filled
but
with
that was
soft blue
not
light and the
acceptable.
gentle hum of machines.
That was
Everything was calm. Everything was under control. This
I
was the
low-key wanna
moment they had planned
try
for
out
over
PUBG.
300 years,
Oh,
and
I
so
was calling
far,
you. I was
everything
like,
was
I need to
going
do this.
exactly as expected.
I was able to
Admiral,
finally
said
get the
Commander
game
from her station at the
turn off,
main console.
and then
She was a
start
young
reloading
woman with
on the
sharp
game.
eyes and steady hands, one of the best officers in the
Yes,
entire fleet.
weird.
All 12 systems report
It'd be fucking
stable
funny if
transit.
somehow I had
Population
everything
counts
answered
holding
on
steady
screen.
at 47 billion.
Well, I hope you
power output from the lattices is within normal
Oh.
range.
I can come and go.
Nodded
in this,
slowly.
VC as
The
well.
lattices were massive
There's
structures
only
that surrounded each of humanity's stars, capturing their energy and using it to power the
There's only like
transit
5 people that have
fields.
access to
Without
doing that, I
them,
think.
moving an entire solar system would have been impossible. With them, it was merely extremely difficult. Time to intergalactic space, he asked. 4 hours,
Twitch?
17 minutes, replied.
Yeah.
We
I
will
don't know
cross
if
the
you're a mod on
boundary
my
at
Twitch.
300 hours.
You put me as a mod
Allowed
on your
himself a
Twitch.
small
Okay.
smile.
Where?
Intergalactic
Chat,
space.
am I
The
thing
great
real quick? I don't
void
think you're a
between
mod. I think you're a
galaxies
VIP.
where no species had ever traveled. It was the most
You made me a
empty
mod
and
in
lonely
yours.
place in the universe, and it was about to
Uh-huh.
become humanity's new
But I don't think you're a
home.
mod in mine.
Sir, said Lieutenant from the
Okay.
communications station.
Last
He
one,
was a
I don't
nervous
know,
young
rating
man,
isn't the best.
still getting used to the weight of his responsibilities.
Alright.
We are receiving
pa-
transmissions from the Council fleet. They have arrived at the Sol system. Put it on
I'll
speaker,
probably be
ordered.
rating out to nerd
The
as
bridge
well.
filled with the sound of alien voices. At first, there was confusion.
I thought you
Then,
Hi,
as the
Audrey.
Council fleet realized what they were seeing,
Win or
confusion turned to
unfollow?
panic.
That's crazy.
This is commander of the Council
No, 'cause
Enforcement
remember the
Fleet,
other mouse
said a
that I had,
sharp,
the
clicking
Logitech is,
voice.
like, non-stick.
It was probably one of the High Arbiter's relatives. We have arrived at the
Oh,
human
I thought
home
you were gonna
system
switch to, like, a
designated
whole
Sol,
new,
but there is nothing here. The
like,
star
you
is
were
gone.
buy a
The
new
planets are
PC
gone.
or
Our
something.
sensors detect only empty space.
Oh,
Another
yeah, I gotta go
voice
back to
joined in, higher and more afraid. How is this possible? Stars cannot simply disappear. Someone must have destroyed them. Negative, said a third voice, this one calm and analytical, probably a scientist.
And then this
There is
like
no
video
debris,
editing,
no
no
radiation
mouse.
signature, no
I have
evidence
the- I
of
have the
any
Logitech,
explosion or
Logitech one,
weapon
but it's
discharge.
to the side
The
more
system
for,
simply
like,
does not
Toxic?
exist
Who's
anymore.
toxic? You?
It is as if it was never
That's the
here.
one that I got my mom.
Spread out, commanded the, search the surrounding
Me or you?
space. They must be hiding somewhere. Gestured and muted the transmission. The bridge
back
was quiet
hurts.
again, except for the soft hum of the engines. They will search for years, said quietly. They will never find us. No, agreed, they will not. He turned away from thee and walked to the center of the bridge, where a large holographic display showed the position of all 12 human systems. Earth, Mars,
not in the VC,
the
but she's in
colonies
my
on Titan and
stream.
Europa, the mining stations
Or
in
in
the
Dakota's
asteroid
stream.
belt, the research facilities on the moons of Jupiter and Saturn. All of it was here, traveling together through the darkness. Do you remember, said slowly, what the Council said when we
you
first
work
made
all
contact?
weekend?
Where are we going?
Looked up from her console. They said we were lucky
I
to
don't
be
know, I
found
think,
by civilized species.
I don't know, to be
They said
honest.
we should be grateful for the chance to learn from our betters.
Let's just go here. Fuck
And
it.
what did we learn?
Are you sure?
I
Was
don't
quiet
know.
for a moment.
No,
Then
we
she
went here
said,
last time.
we
It's
learned
not
that the
safe.
Council is not a
Land over
government. It is a trap. They find young species and offer
Blue?
them membership.
Over here, the
They
blue,
give them
yeah.
technology and
Last
trade
time
and
you
protection.
had us land in that
And then
park.
slowly, over centuries, they control
Hey, I
them.
did. No, I
They
did
limit
pretty
what
good.
they can build. They forbid what they can study.
Yes, I
They
did.
keep them small and
So
weak
if I
and
got plenty of
dependent.
kills, then everybody
Yes,
congratulates me
said,
for being such a
and we
good
learned something else. We
Huh?
learned what happens to species that refuse to stay small. Though that was the name that
Okay.
every human knew but never spoke. They had been a young species like humanity, full of curiosity and ambition.
Hey, look at this star.
They had joined the Council 5,000 years
Yeah.
ago. They had grown quickly,
Fall damage?
asked too many questions, developed technologies that made the older species nervous. The Council had voted to peacefully relocate them to a distant system. No one ever heard from the again. Then there were another young species, another rising civilization. There had suffered a natural asteroid impact shortly after they protested their trade sanctions. And a dozen other names that were now nothing but footnotes in galactic history.
Bots are here.
The
Ignore
Council
them.
did not tolerate rivals. They did not allow growth. Any species that might one day challenge their power was quietly eliminated, always with a legal excuse, always with plausible deniability. Humanity had seen this pattern. They had studied it, and they had decided 300 years ago that they would not become another
Excuse
forgotten
me, just
name.
passing through.
The preparation began before I was born, said softly. My
Ignore me.
grandfather was one of the first engineers to work on the transit field theory.
Ignore me.
My mother helped
Thank
build
you.
the first lattice prototype.
What the fuck is,
My entire family, for 3 generations, worked toward this single moment. And we were not alone. Millions of people across all 12 systems, keeping the secret, doing their part. How did we hide it from them? Asked. He was young enough that the departure was still somewhat magical to him. We showed them what they expected to see,
Oops.
explained.
Ignore me.
The council thinks all young species are stupid and
Here's
primitive,
a
so we
purple
acted
sniper.
stupid and primitive. We built
Okay.
fake cities
There you
and
go.
fake ships for their surveillance
I got
satellites to
purple
watch.
snipers, but you guys can
We
have them.
conducted our real research in
No, thank
hidden
you.
facilities deep underground or in the outer reaches of our systems. We let them believe we were following their rules while we broke every single one.
Shoot them or near them.
They never suspected, asked. Shook his head. They were too arrogant to suspect. They had ruled the galaxy for 100,000 years. They had destroyed dozens of young species. They believed they knew everything about us.
Destiny's
They
dead.
believed we were
Wait,
predictable.
the fuck?
Yeah.
He looked back
What?
at the
Destiny?
fatting light of the Milky Way. They were wrong. The hours passed slowly. Officers changed shifts. Reports came in from the other 11 systems, all confirming stable transit. Humanity's great fleet
wanna
of
go
living
get
worlds
her or
continued
what?
its journey into the void.
Pretty far.
At exactly 300 hours, the Wanderer's promise crossed the boundary into intergalactic space. There was no visible change,
There's
no dramatic flash of light, but the
there's Spark right
sensors
here if you wanna
confirmed
hit
it. They had left the galaxy behind. Stood at the and looked out at the darkness. There were no stars here, no planets, no other ships, just an endless ocean of nothing, stretching for millions of light years in every direction.
We're gonna go. We might as well go now.
Send a message to all systems, ordered. His voice was steady, but inside his heart was racing. Tell them what we have accomplished today. His fingers flew across his console. A moment later, the Admiral's voice was being broadcast to every
She
ship,
does.
every station, every home in all 12 systems.
Like, I just can't go solo.
People of humanity said, "This is Admiral. At 300 hours today, we crossed the boundary into intergalactic space. We have left the Milky Way behind. The Galactic Council can no longer reach us. Their laws no longer apply to us. Their threats are meaningless." He paused, feeling the weight of history pressing down on his shoulders. For 300 years, we
There's-
lived under their shadow. We smiled when they insulted us. We obeyed when they gave orders. We
Should I
pretended
did
to be
alone.
small and weak and harmless, but we were never any of those things. We were just waiting. Now the waiting is over. We are free. Free to build what we want. Free to learn what we want. Free to
they're-
become
they're
what we
still
were
kinda right
always
there,
meant
so-
to be. The journey
They're
ahead will
moving
be
though, so I
long and
think you might be
hard.
good.
It will take us generations
not.
to
They're
reach our
ready to go.
destination, but we
So
will
then there's
reach it.
like-
And when we
You die,
do,
bro.
we will build a civilization that the Council cannot imagine. This is not an exile. This is not a defeat. This is a beginning. Today, humanity starts again. And this time, no one will tell us what we cannot do. He ended the transmission. The bridge was silent. Then slowly began to clap, joined her. Then the other officers. The sound spread through the ship, through the fleet, through all 12
Oh, I thought you were
systems.
gonna reboot her
47
over here near
billion
us.
humans celebrating their freedom in the darkness between galaxies. Did not celebrate. He stood at the and looked out at the void ahead. Somewhere out there, millions of
Later,
light
man.
years away, was the Andromeda
Good
galaxy,
night.
their new home, their new beginning. He would not live to see it. Neither would his children or his. But someday humanity would arrive. And when they did, they would be ready for whatever they found there. Set course for Andromeda, he ordered quietly. Maximum sustainable speed. Course laid in, replied.
Where
Then
you
let us
came from?
begin.
No.
The 12 stars of humanity burned bright against the darkness, and together they sailed into the unknown.
You and your
50
fucking
years
helmet.
had passed since the departure. Historians sat alone in the great archive of New Soul, surrounded by glowing screens and floating holographic documents. She was 73 years old now, with gray hair and tired eyes, but her mind was still sharp. She had spent her entire adult life recording the story of humanity's journey, And today, she was adding the
Dude,
final chapter to the official
we
history of the
followed
first
you.
50
We were just
years.
watching your back the whole time.
Outside the archive's windows, the
Yes,
artificial sun
bruh.
of Earth in transit cast its warm
Yeah,
yellow light
pretty
across
sure.
the city. The buildings looked almost exactly like they had before the departure.
Well,
Tall
you weren't
towers
supposed
of
to
glass and
go
steel,
that way. You're supposed to come
rising
back the
toward
way
a
you
blue sky
came.
that was not really a sky at all. It was a projection, a perfect simulation created by machines that worked day and night to make humanity forget they were traveling through the emptiest place in the universe. But never forgot. She had been a child during the departure, 23 years old and still in university when the stars began to move. She remembered the terror of those first hours, when no one knew if the transit fields would hold, when the ground shook and the sky turned strange colors. She remembered her grandmother holding her hand and telling her not to be afraid. "This is a good thing," her grandmother had said, tears running down her wrinkled face. "We should have done this long ago, before we ever met them, before they taught us to be small." Her grandmother had died 10 years after the departure, peacefully in her sleep. She had lived long enough to see the new society beginning to form, the first generation of children born in the void. She had died smiling. Finished typing her final paragraph and saved the document. The history was complete. 50 years of struggle and growth, hope and fear, all recorded for future generations to read.
There's potions right here.
She leaned back in her chair and closed her eyes. So much had changed. So much was different now. The younger generation called themselves the Voidborn. They had never seen the Milky Way except as a fatting point of light
Wait,
in
where
their
are you at, Destiny?
telescopes. They had never met an alien species. They had never felt the weight of the Council's laws pressing down on them. To them,
Here you go.
the 12 traveling stars
Oh,
were the
no,
entire
no.
universe, and the idea of living under
No,
alien
how do I
rule
just
was as
fucking- okay,
strange
fuck
as the
this.
idea of living underwater. They were different in other
Trying to throw it
ways,
at you,
too.
but whatever.
The old fears and hatreds that had divided humanity for thousands of years were fading away. Nations still existed in name, but their borders meant less and less with each passing year. The challenges of the journey required everyone to work together, and slowly, humanity was becoming one people instead of many. And the technology, oh, the technology, opened her eyes and looked at her own hands. They looked normal, soft, and wrinkled with age. But inside them were millions of tiny machines, nanobots that kept her cells healthy and repaired damage before it could accumulate. Without them, she would have died decades ago. With them, she might live another 100 years. The
Alright,
Council
he's
had
running.
forbidden this technology. They called it dangerous
He's gonna
enhancement
be
and
in
punished
your sight
any
right now,
species
Dakota.
that tried to develop it. But the Council's laws did not reach the void between galaxies. In the orbital stations around each star, scientists were unlocking secrets that had been forbidden for 100,000 years. True artificial intelligence, not the limited programs the Council allowed, but genuine thinking minds that could learn and grow and create. Synthetic beings that chose to work
bro.
alongside humans, not because they were
down.
programmed to, but because they wanted to.
Trying to...
Medical technologies that could cure any disease,
Got
repair
banana?
any injury,
Got banana,
extend
boy?
human life far beyond its natural limits. The oldest humans in the fleet were now
There's
approaching
one
their
right when we
second
come down from
century
this
of
fucking hill,
life,
too, in
still
here.
healthy and active. Ships
Oh,
that
yeah.
could fold space itself, traveling instantly between points that were thousands of kilometers apart. The transit fields that carried the stars were just the beginning. The new ships could do things the Council would have called impossible. And weapons. Did not like to think about the weapons, but she knew they existed. Deep in the military shipyards, hidden from civilian eyes, engineers were building machines of war that would have
I
terrified
think
the
we should try
Council,
to move to circle,
not for
to be
conquest.
honest.
Humanity had no desire to rule over others, but they had seen what the galaxy did to the weak, and
Then
they
we
would never be
can
weak
shoot
again.
from
A soft chime
the
interrupted her
advantage.
thoughts. She looked up to see a message
Are we
floating in
fighting,
front of
or-
her
I
face.
don't know.
Fleet Admiral requests your presence. Observation Deck 7.
There's just
Urgent.
too much.
Sighed and stood up slowly. Her old bones ached despite the nanobots, and she
Oh,
had been
fuck. They're
forward to a
Yeah, they're
quiet
shooting
evening at
where I'm
home.
at, but they don't see
But when
me,
the fleet
so I don't know
admiral
what
called,
day
you
is
answered.
that.
They're shooting right
30
at
minutes
you.
later,
They're not even
she
shooting
stood
me.
on
What do you mean?
observation
Yeah,
deck
they did.
7,
I saw one
looking
go
out
by.
at the strangest sight she had ever seen.
I think
The Milky Way was gone.
I don't think they're shooting
Not
at me.
invisible, not hidden.
Someone
Gone.
has a sniper then.
The
Yeah,
fatting
over
point
there.
of
Got a
light that
sniper.
had followed them
That's
for
right.
50 years had finally vanished into the
There's
darkness.
another team right here.
They had
That's why.
traveled so far that even their home galaxy was now invisible to
We
the
can get
naked
inside.
eye. But that was not what made the
right
sight
here.
strange. What
Yep.
made it strange was the new light that had appeared ahead
It's
of
fine.
them. Andromeda.
Let's go. We're-
It was still unimaginably far away, over 2 million light years distant. But it was visible now, a faint smudge of brightness against the black void. Their destination, their future home.
JK, thank you for the
Beautiful, isn't it? Said a voice beside her. Turned to see Fleet Admiral standing next to her. Was young for her rank, only 45 years old, but she had proven herself a dozen times over during the journey. She was tall and strong, with
Maybe
short
just get
black
inside
hair
gas
and
station.
eyes that seemed to see everything
we
at
gotta
once.
move.
I never thought I would live to see it, admitted. Neither did I, said. When I was a child, Andromeda was just a story, something our great-great might see someday.
Follow Dakota.
But the new drives are faster than anyone expected. If we continue at this pace, we will arrive in another 150 years. I will not live that long.
Where are you guys at?
Smiled. The medical teams say you
yeah,
might.
no.
The new life
by yourself?
extension
No.
treatments are very effective.
Oh, no, Destiny,
You could
Destiny.
see 200 years, maybe more. Shook her head slowly. I am not sure I want to live that long.
Nope.
Why
Here
not?
now.
Was quiet for a moment. Then she said, I remember the old Earth, the real Earth with real sunlight and real wind and real rain. I remember what it felt like to stand on solid ground that was not being carried through space by machines. I remember what it felt like to look up at the stars and know they were not moving. She looked at the distant glow
Is that a
of
fucking
Andromeda.
bot?
There's another one.
The Voidborn do not remember those things. They do not miss them. For them, this life is normal. But for me, every day is a reminder of what we lost. Nodded slowly. I understand. My grandfather felt the same way. He said the hardest part was not the journey itself, but the knowing that he could never go back. Your grandfather was Admiral, wasn't he? The
Yeah, we need
hero
to
of the
move.
departure. Yes, he died 20
purple.
years ago. He was 112 years old.
Purple?
I remember him, said.
Towards circle,
I interviewed him for my history. He was a good man, a wise man. He was afraid, said quietly.
We can take.
Not of the council, not of the
take that
void.
zip line, no?
He was
And go over
afraid
here?
of what we might become.
Or is that still
He used to
circle?
say that the greatest danger to
You don't wanna come up
humanity
here?
was not our enemies, but
It's higher
ourselves.
ground.
What did he mean?
Okay.
Looked out at the darkness. He meant that we left the galaxy because the council tried to control us. We built weapons and technologies that they had forbidden.
And then we
We
can
broke
just move
every
right
rule
side. I
they
don't
made,
fucking know.
and we were right to do so. But now there are no rules at all. No one to tell us what we
can go
cannot
down
do.
right here. There's a
No
zip line.
limits, no boundaries. She turned to face. In 50 years, we have changed more than we changed in the previous 10,000. We have
Wait,
become something
you guys
new,
want- okay.
something powerful. And my
guys-
grandfather
well, I
was
think you guys
afraid
should
that we
move-
might forget why
get
power
advantage
should
of-
be
ahead
used
of 'em.
carefully.
Take the zip.
He was
Take the
afraid that
zip.
we might become the same kind of tyrants that we escaped. Thought about this for a long time. Finally, she said, and what do you believe?
Where is this?
Smiled.
Okay,
I
okay.
believe that we are better than that. I believe that humans remember their pain, and that memory makes us kind.
So.
I believe that we left the galaxy not because we were afraid of them, but because we were afraid of what we might do if we stayed.
This is all on top of that
She
bunker.
looked back at the distant light of Andromeda. When we
Yeah.
arrive at our
My
new
leg is
home,
cramping.
we will have the power to
Someone's
do
shooting a
anything.
sniper.
We could
Careful.
conquer. We could destroy. We could become worse than the council ever was.
Okay.
But we will not do any of those things, because we remember what it felt
could
like to
start-
be
you see how the
small
circle's
and
still
weak and
moving out?
helpless.
Maybe we should just
We
stay
remember
within
what
it,
the
to
council
be
did
honest.
to us, and we will
But
never
it's
become
kinda
like
open,
them.
So.
Nodded slowly. She wanted to believe that. She needed to believe it. I hope you are right, she said softly. I am right,
We should start
replied.
moving with the circle
I have
this
to
way,
be, because if
to be
I am
honest.
wrong, then all of this was for nothing. They stood together in
No,
silence,
fall damage.
watching the faint glow of their future grow slowly brighter against the endless dark.
Can use this rock
200
as a...
years had passed since the
as a-
departure,
I'm flying
when a
in.
council survey
Flying in.
ship found the beacon. Captain the Younger stood on the bridge of his
I'm on the other
vessel
side
and
of the rock.
stared at the object floating in the empty space
Uh,
before him. It was small, no larger than a personal transport, made of some strange dark metal that his sensors could not
Why is it
identify.
so open?
It was clearly artificial. It was clearly very old, and it was broadcasting a message.
Okay, so...
Was it like
you
his
guys wanna move
great-grandfather,
here?
the
Dude,
High
circle
Arbiter
keeps
who had
fucking
condemned
moving, bro.
humanity so long ago?
So quick.
He had the same hard shell, the same
Yeah, we
clicking
need to
mandibles,
yeah,
the
stay on
same
circle.
cold, dark
Okay.
eyes. But he was not the same. Where his ancestor had
this is
been
kinda good, this is
proud and
kinda good.
certain, the Younger was careful and thoughtful. He had
They're
studied
gonna
the
just be
old
coming from
records.
this way,
He knew what
so we gotta
happened to
watch our backs.
species that made
There's a
enemies
car,
of the
too.
wrong people.
Take the car.
What is it saying? He
They don't
asked
see
his
us here.
communications
Perfect.
officer. The officer, a young with nervous, wet eyes, adjusted his console.
Trying to head up to you
It
guys.
is broadcasting in multiple
So I'm
languages,
looking,
Captain.
it looks like
Council
it's gonna be moving here,
standard,
so
old,
keep
and
moving.
several we do not recognize. What is the message? The officer hesitated. Then he read aloud. We remember you. We are not angry. We are not coming back. But if you ever need us, speak these words into the void and we will hear.
I hit them in the air.
The bridge fell silent. Every officer knew what this meant. Every officer knew who had left this beacon here, on the very edge of the galaxy, where only
Yep, they're
surveyed
flying
ships
in.
and explorers ever traveled.
There's someone
Humans,
around this side
someone
here.
whispered,
Already right
They're
here.
fighting.
stared at the beacon for a long time. His great-grandfather had spent the last years of his life searching for the humans, sending fleet after fleet into the darkness between galaxies. He had found nothing. No trace, no signal, nothing but
Nope, I'm in the
empty
open, I'm in the
space and
open. Yep.
silence.
Heavy weapon.
He had died bitter and afraid, convinced that the humans would return someday
gonna-
to take
They're
revenge.
coming up.
But
Yep.
this message was
Yep, I'm
not
gonna die.
threatening.
Wait,
It was
I'm
not
healing, I'm
angry,
healing.
it was almost kind. Captain, said the communications officer, what should we do?
Nice.
Knew what the council would want him to do. Destroy the
Nice.
beacon. Report it as space debris. Never speak of it
Alright.
again. The council did not want anyone
We're
to
ending
know
there,
that the
for
humans had
sure.
left a message.
I'm done.
The council did not want anyone to know that the humans were still out there, somewhere in the void, watching and waiting. But was not his great-grandfather. Record the message, he ordered. All of it, every frequency, every language.
With my laser.
Sir,
right
the
now.
council regulations. I know the
And
regulations.
so I
Record it
see.
anyway.
another
The
order,
officer
another,
obeyed,
like, big
watched
order
as
right
the
now
data was transferred to his
for
personal
for
storage
19,
device,
but
a small
they
crystal
want
chip
it
that he kept
specific
hidden in
and,
his
like,
uniform.
looking
Then he
specific,
gave the order that the council
and it's
expected.
just been a fucking
Destroy the
mess.
beacon.
Lettering
The
small,
ship's
full,
weapons
and then letter
fired.
false,
The
false,
strange
these
dark
fucking
metal exploded into a
laser
cloud of
heads.
glittering fragments that scattered into the void.
Mm,
In a few hours, there would be nothing left.
should I
No
raid
evidence,
somebody
no
playing
proof.
Fortnite, or should I raid?
But had the message. And
Nerd
deep in his
raid.
heart, he knew that someday it might be important.
Okay.
100 years later, the galaxy burned. The enemy came from beyond the galactic rim, from a direction no
How many
one had
wins?
ever
4 or
explored.
5? Maybe
They had
4?
no name, or at least no name that anyone could pronounce. The survivors simply called them the Devourers. They were not like any species the Council had ever encountered. They did not negotiate. They did not
6
conquer.
or 7?
They did not
Really?
even communicate. They simply arrived in a system,
Really?
consumed everything they found, and moved on to the next.
Get out.
Stars,
Well,
planets,
Maybe 4 with
ships,
Dakota.
people.
Maybe she's right.
Everything was
No, they're
fuel
saying
for their
6,
endless
7,
hunger.
like
The
that
fell in the
stupid
first
thing
year.
people are saying.
3 billion
Interesting.
people, gone
But
in a
there's
matter
no
of
camera.
days. The Council sent a fleet to investigate, and the fleet never returned. Then the Devourers spread. One system after another went dark. The great silicon giants who had stood for 1,000,000 years were reduced to scattered refugees fleeing through the stars. The proud rulers of the Council watched helplessly as their outer colonies
the fuck does that
disappeared
mean?
one by one. The Council tried everything: weapons that could crack planets, shields that could stop asteroid impacts, ships that could travel faster than light. Nothing worked. The Devourers absorbed every attack and grew stronger. They adapted to every defense and broke through. They could not be stopped. By the 10th year, half the galaxy was gone. By the 20th year, the Council had lost 80% of its territory. By the 30th year, only a handful of systems remained. The great chamber where humanity had once been condemned was half destroyed, its crystal walls shattered by debris from battles fought nearby. The 12 species who had once ruled the galaxy were reduced to a few billion survivors, huddled together in their last strongholds, waiting for the end. Admiral the Younger, now ancient and tired, commanded what was left of the Council fleet. He had fought the Devourers for 30 years. He had lost friends, family, entire worlds. He had tried everything he could think of, and nothing had worked. Now he sat alone in his quarters on the flagship, staring at a small crystal chip in his hand. The message he had recorded a century ago, the words the humans had left behind. If you ever need us, speak these words into the void and we will hear. For 100 years he had kept this secret. He had told no one about the beacon, no one about the message. The Council would have destroyed the recording if they knew. They would have called him a traitor for even considering such a thing.
Me not having
But the Council was dying. In a few more years, maybe less, the Devourers would consume the last of their worlds. Every species that had voted to exile humanity would be extinct. The great galactic civilization that had lasted for 100,000 years would be nothing but dust. What did it matter now what the Council thought? Activated his communications console and connected to the most powerful transmitter on the ship. He aimed it at the empty space between galaxies, the direction the humans had gone so long ago. Then he spoke. "This is Admiral of the Galactic Council. We are dying. The Devourers have consumed most of our civilization. We cannot stop them. We have nothing left." He paused, his old heart beating fast. 200 years ago, my great-grandfather condemned your species to exile. He was wrong. We were all wrong.
Who was that?
We feared you because you were different, because you were strong, because you did not follow our rules. We tried to destroy you and you escaped.
How does the mic sound?
I am
How
not
does
asking for forgiveness.
the
I know
music
we
sound?
do
I'm
not
about to
deserve
add
it,
right now.
but I am asking for help, not for myself, not for the Council, for the billions of innocent people who had nothing to do with our crimes, for the children who never
There's
knew what
scratchy
we did to
noise?
you, for the future of every species in this galaxy.
First.
He held up the crystal chip. You left
Wait,
a
it says
message 100
Meisaku.
years ago. You said if we ever needed
Oh,
you, we should
shit.
speak into the void. I am
Okay.
speaking now. We need you, please. If you can hear this, if you are still out there, please help us. The message ended. The transmission flew
Guys.
out into the darkness at the speed of
I
light.
look alive.
Sat back in his chair and waited. Days passed, then
I
weeks,
got an
then
eyelash
months.
fill.
Nothing. The Devourers continued their advance.
Damn,
Another
frogs.
system fell,
Hello.
then another. The Council fleet retreated again and again, shrinking with each battle. Began to lose
Yep,
hope.
I got it.
Perhaps the humans were too
The
far
eyelashes.
away. Perhaps they could not
Yeah,
hear.
me.
Perhaps they did not care.
Look at them.
Perhaps they were already dead, consumed by something else in the void between galaxies.
I got
3
an eyelash
years after
fill.
his transmission, stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched the Devourers approach the last Council system. His fleet was reduced to a few hundred ships. His crew was exhausted and afraid. This was
Also,
the end.
New phone, who dis?
"Sir," said his censor officer, a young who had been born
two
after the
phones
war
now.
began and had never known peace. "I am detecting something strange at the galactic rim." "What is it?" "Light, sir.
My
A lot of light.
grandson.
12 points of intense brightness appearing from nowhere."
He's being very needy
Felt his
right
heart
now.
stop. 12 points of light. 12 stars. "Put it on screen," he whispered.
Very needy.
The flickered and showed the edge of the galaxy. And there, burning against the darkness like a
Me
constellation
mugging,
of hope, were 12 stars that had not been there a moment before.
May.
Human stars.
Why the fuck?
A transmission came through.
What
A
the
woman's
fuck?
voice, clear and strong, speaking in
I
perfect
got him
Council
some
standard.
dog peanut butter.
This is
Should I give him that?
Admiral of the Human
May
Expeditionary
always be giving
Force to the
masterpiece at the
Galactic
wrong
Council.
time.
We heard
Literally.
you.
No, he's
We are
actually
here.
being good.
Felt tears
I'm
running
just
down
gonna
his
say the
old
word
face.
treat
In all
like
his
5
years, he
times
had
and
never
see how he
cried,
reacts.
but now he could
Treat,
not stop.
treat,
Thank you, he said, his voice breaking.
and then Maverick,
Thank you.
treat.
Behind the 12 stars, thousands of ships emerged from folded space. Human ships, designs that made the Council's mightiest vessels look like
Something
toys.
treat.
They spread out in perfect
Treat.
formation, weapons powering up, shields
He was
activating.
about to lay down.
After 200 years,
I'm gonna be
humanity
lurking
had
while-
returned.
Oh, okay, thank you. Actually,
And
guys,
they had
I
come to
low-key wanna
fight.
play Fortnite.
The war lasted 30 years.
It's
Admiral
like when you
commanded
said
the
you're gonna
Human
play Silent Hill
Expeditionary
F and
Force
never
from the
do.
bridge of the Eternal
Should I
Soul,
play right now?
the largest and most powerful ship
I'm
ever built by
scared.
any species.
Not over the game.
She was
I just don't want to use
250
my
years old
brain.
now, her body a careful blend of flesh and machine,
Maybe
her
after
mind
Fortnite.
sharp and clear despite the centuries. She had been born during the journey through the void, raised on stories of the Council's
Let me get his
cruelty,
peanut butter.
trained from childhood to fight enemies that no one else could defeat. Now she was fighting the greatest battle in galactic history. The Devourers were unlike anything humanity had ever faced. They were not a species in any normal sense. They were more like a force of nature, a hungry void that consumed everything it touched. They had no leaders to negotiate with, no worlds to threaten, no weaknesses to exploit. They simply ate and
Play
grew
Fortnite.
and
Ew,
ate more.
no. What do you mean? That's
But
how I was
humanity
too, to
had
be fair.
spent 200 years preparing for
that
exactly this
same
kind of
energy.
enemy. In the first year of the
Towards
war,
Fortnite.
the Human Expeditionary Force
look at me.
used weapons that made the Council's most powerful technologies look like children's toys. They
Sit.
fired beams of compressed spacetime that tore holes in
Okay,
reality
dried a little
itself.
crusty.
They deployed
Sit.
swarms of intelligent
his peanut butter?
machines that could adapt and evolve faster than the Devourers could consume them. They built massive
Sit.
barriers of folded space that the enemy could not pass through. The Devourers
Sit.
slowed. For the first time since the war began, they stopped advancing. In the second year, humanity began to push back. They did not fight alone. The survivors of the Council species joined them, flying alongside human ships, learning new tactics and technologies. For the first time in galactic history, the old masters and their former
Homeboy
subjects
needs to
fought as
relax.
equals.
He's crazy.
The who had been the only species to vote against humanity's exile were given the and best human weapons. They proved themselves
He always tries
brave
humping
and
my cat.
resourceful, holding the line
Hey,
again and
not the chair.
again when
What the
all
fuck?
seemed lost.
No.
The proud and
No.
stubborn took longer to accept human help, but eventually,
licking the chair for
even
no
they
reason.
admitted that the humans knew how to fight. Young warriors
God.
trained in
at
human
him.
academies and returned to their fleets as commanders. Though with their great silicon bodies and ancient
Oh,
wisdom,
wait a minute.
worked with
Wait a
human
minute.
scientists
Wait a minute.
to
You guys can't
understand the
see that.
Devourers.
Hold on.
Together, they discovered where the enemy came from, a tear in spacetime itself, a wound in the fabric of the universe that led to somewhere else,
Okay.
somewhere hungry.
Okay.
In the 10th year,
Okay.
humanity found
Okay.
a way to close the wound. It was not easy.
Oh, shit.
It required building a device larger than most moons,
back.
powered by the combined energy of all 12 human stars. It required sacrifices that did not like to think about. Ships that flew into the tier
You guys
knowing
didn't see
they
that,
would
right?
never return. Crews that gave their lives to plant bombs in places no one could survive.
Sit.
But it worked. In the 20th year, the flow of Devourers finally stopped. No more came through the wound. The ones already in the galaxy could be hunted down and
Did you
destroyed.
guys see that?
In the 30th year, the last Devourer was killed. The war was over. The survivors gathered in the ruins of the Great Council Chamber. It was the same room where humanity had been condemned 230 years ago, though now it was barely recognizable. The crystal walls were shattered. The floor was cracked and burned. The elegant platforms
Third?
where the representatives had sat were nothing but twisted metal. But the room still stood, and for the first time in centuries, representatives
Actually,
from all
first.
the surviving species gathered there together.
All right, he's
Admiral
done.
stood at the center of the chamber, where Ambassador had stood so long ago. She was tired. The war had taken everything from her, friends,
He's done
family,
for now.
years of her
Also, he
life.
licked the chair.
She wanted nothing more than to return to Andromeda, to the peaceful worlds humanity had built in their new home.
Sure, buddy.
But she had one more thing to do.
Wait, did you guys see what
Admiral
was
the
in my
Younger
the corner
stood
of my room
before
right now?
her. He was ancient now, over 300 years old, kept alive only by the human medical technology that had been shared with all the survivors. His shell was cracked and faded.
Back to...
His eyes were dim.
What should we do, guys?
But he still stood straight and proud, as
shall we
befitted the
do?
last commander of the Council fleet. "You saved us," said. His voice was weak but clear. "After what we did to you, after we tried to exile you, destroy you, we would all be dead without you." "Yes," agreed simply. She saw no point in denying it. "Why?" asked. "Why did you come? After everything we did, you could have let us die. No one would have blamed you. You could have stayed in your new galaxy and forgotten we ever existed." Was quiet for a long moment. Behind her, through the shattered dome, the 12 stars of humanity burned in the galactic sky. They had not returned to their old positions. They floated near the galactic core now, a permanent reminder of what humanity had become. "When we left," said finally, "we were afraid, not of you. We knew we could escape you. We were afraid of ourselves. We were afraid of what we might become if we stayed." She looked around the ruined chamber, at the faces of the alien representatives watching her. "For 200 years,
Honestly, I'm
we
kinda
lived
feeling
in the
this
void
music.
between galaxies. We built new technologies. We expanded our minds. We became powerful beyond anything you can imagine.
Something in my eye.
And every day we asked ourselves the same question: what will we do with this power? Some of us wanted revenge.
How are you today?
Some
I
of
am
us
good.
wanted
I
to
feel
return and
good. I got
destroy
an
the
eyelash
Council,
fill,
make you pay for what you
so I
tried to
feel
do to
alive
us.
again. I
We
feel
had the
myself
strength. It would have been easy.
because
Lowered his
I was
head.
going
We would
on
have deserved it.
like a month
Perhaps,
of
said.
not having my
But we
lashes done.
decided that was
4
not who we
weeks.
wanted to be. We decided that power should be used
Hello,
to
small
protect,
head bud.
not to destroy.
Hello.
We decided that the measure of a
Edits.
civilization is not how it treats its friends, but how it treats its enemies. She took a step closer
Leave him
to.
alone.
"You looked at us and saw a threat, something to be controlled and eliminated. But we looked at you and saw what you could become. Not rulers, not predators, something better, something worthy of the stars."
Okay. LOL.
Looked up at her
Okay,
with his
what?
old, tired eyes. "Do you really believe that,
You're doing
after
okay?
everything?" "I have to believe it," said. "Because if I do not, then all of this was for nothing. The journey, the war, the lives we lost. It only has meaning if there is hope for
Working on
something
the
better."
vlog still. I fucked
She
up.
turned to
How did you
address
fuck
all
up?
the representatives. "We are not
You have one
staying," she
job.
announced.
One
"Andromeda is our
job.
home now. We have built a civilization there that you cannot imagine. Peaceful worlds, happy people, children
play
who
some
have
fucking
never known war
Roblox.
or fear. We will not give that up." A murmur ran through the crowd. After everything humanity
Aw,
had
Jack
done
and
for them,
Dexter.
they
Oh,
were
let's look at
leaving
the...
again.
What are the free games
"But we
right
will
now?
leave the door open," continued. "The tier in spacetime that the Devourers came through is sealed, but we have
Movie of
learned
the
how to
month.
open new ones, safe ones, passages between galaxies that anyone can use."
Is that new?
She raised her hand, and a holographic image appeared above the chamber.
Shane, hello.
It showed a map of the local group of galaxies, the Milky
I'm currently
Way,
fixing my setup, but I'm
Andromeda,
gonna keep...
and
Thank you
dozens
so
of
much,
smaller
Dooms. I
ones scattered
appreciate
around
you.
them. "We are sharing this technology with all of you. The passage to Andromeda will be open to any species that wants to use it. Any of you who want to learn, to grow, to become something more than what you are now, you are welcome to follow us." "What is the price?" asked one of the representatives. His voice was deep and rumbling like
Fuck it,
stones
we're playing some
grinding
Grand Theft
together.
Auto.
"What do you want in return?" "Nothing," said. "There is no price. There is no trick. We are offering you this because it is the right thing to do." The chamber was silent. No species in galactic history had ever offered something for nothing. There was always a cost, always a debt, always a chain attached to every gift. But humanity was different. Lowered her hand, and the holographic image faded. "In 3 days, the human expeditionary force will depart this galaxy. We will return home to Andromeda and continue building our civilization. You may follow
Tekken
us if you
2.
wish. You may stay here and rebuild on your
Look
own.
at King.
The choice is yours. She turned and began to walk toward the exit. Admiral called out, "Wait," stopped and looked back, struggled to stand up straight. His old body was failing, but his spirit was still strong. "I want to apologize," he said. "On behalf of my great-grandfather, on behalf of the council, on behalf of everyone who ever treated your species with fear and cruelty. We were wrong. We were so very wrong." Looked at him for a long moment, then she nodded. "I know," she said, "and I forgive you, not because you deserve it, but because holding on to anger is a poison, and I do not want to be poisoned anymore." She smiled, and for just a moment, she looked like the young woman she had
Why
once
would you
been,
take a break from
before the
Tekken? You're
centuries
such a-
and the wars
I
and the weight
mentally
of
need a break
responsibility.
from that game.
"Goodbye, Admiral. I hope we meet again someday, in better circumstances."
Maybe
She
I'll get
stepped into the
motivated to
light
play.
of a teleportation
Fuck,
beam and
Misato, I
vanished.
need to find it.
In the years that followed, ships began to trickle through the passage to
I moved
Andromeda.
it from my desk.
Scientists seeking
Clean
knowledge,
this whole area.
artists seeking inspiration, refugees seeking peace.
Yeah,
The
I
young
love
and the
the
curious
game,
from
but
every surviving species,
I just need a
drawn
break
by the
from it.
promise of something new. Humanity welcomed them
I don't
all,
even, at
not
the
as
moment, I don't
subjects or
even
servants,
have
not
the
as enemies
energy
or threats, as students,
to learn
as
like any
partners,
combos
as
or
family.
anything. I'm like to the point where I'm just like,
Because that
fuck
was
this
what
game.
humanity had become
Fuck
during their
King.
long journey through the darkness. Not conquerors, not avengers,
don't want it.
teachers, healers, builders
now.
of bridges
So I've been
between the
playing a lot of
stars.
Fortnite,
Admiral died
and I've
3
never
years
played
after
Fortnite
the war
before,
ended,
so it's
peacefully in
actually
his
really
sleep,
fun and different.
surrounded by his children, and his last words were
Hi,
a question.
Drip.
"Do you
I'm
think
getting
they
close to
forgave
Tekken
us?
King.
Really forgave us?"
Congratulations.
His granddaughter, who had trained with human
Definitely take a
pilots and
break if
fought
you need it,
alongside
though,
human
okay?
ships, held his hand and smiled.
If you
"Yes,
need that
grandfather,"
break, take
she
it. I
said.
encourage
"They
the
did,
break.
because that is what humans do." The old admiral closed his eyes and was gone. And across the void between galaxies, the 12 stars of
I'm
humanity
booty?
continued to shine, lighting the way for all who wanted to follow.
I suck.